Okay, as we're exploring the mindfulness of breathing, and we've had various instructions and reflections around this, and I think it's an ongoing attention to different facets of this practice's training, and realizing that mindfulness of breathing is a basically covers the whole path of practice that the Buddha gave, and of course, it begins with the breath, and this is something very ordinary and something that is happening all the time, but we can be mindful of it. In the same way with the four foundations of mindfulness, body, feelings, mind, mental phenomena, these aren't things that you need to conjure up or imagine. These are all things that we're already experiencing. It's a matter of paying attention, directing attention. So with mindfulness of the breath, some of it is paying attention to what is already there, and some of it is directing attention in a way that, say, facilitates an experience, so that the instruction that the Buddha gives to calming the bodily formations, calming the breath, calming the body, and making that very conscious, putting a conscious effort towards calming, or the experiencing the whole body. It's directing an attention to what's already there, but it's not passively waiting for something to happen. It is being willing to direct attention so that it facilitates an experience of experiencing the body, sensitive to the body. In the same way of the, and Ajahn mentioned it, of the experiencing piti, sense of joy, or a sense of exhilaration, a sense of just feeling comfortable. It feels good to breathe in mindfully and breathe out mindfully, and to have a alert, comfortable posture, to be present with that. There's and as Ajahn mentioned, it doesn't have to be some overwhelming rapture or anything, something sort of incredibly spectacular. It's just the experience of feeling good, feeling at ease, feeling kind of light. There's a lightness of being that comes when we just stay with being mindful, with being present, and having the breath as its foundation. So experiencing joy, I breathe in. Experiencing joy, I breathe out. Piti. Experiencing sukha. And these are aspects of experience that we can attend to. I mean, somehow there's there's kind of an assumption sometimes that practice has to be difficult. I've got to struggle somehow to. So it's very, say very Protestant, very puritanical. I've got to suffer in order to get ahead. If I haven't put in my dues, and I'm really not worthy. And so but it's it's really not the case. How can we recognize that and pay attention to the experience of well-being, sense of joy, sense of happiness, of piti, of sukha. Why does breathing need to be difficult? Just breathe in, breathe out. Don't make a problem about it. Don't complicate it. And be willing to experience that sense of ease that is a part of the path that the Buddha's and also that sense that the Buddha points to, say, in this mindfulness of breathing, there's this conscious attention to well-being in the say like that, experiencing piti, I breathe in, I breathe out. Experiencing sukha, I breathe in, breathe out. In the section on the mind, gladdening the mind, I breathe in. Gladdening the mind, I breathe out. It's sort of gladdening as abhipamodayan, which is the word pamoja is like to delight. Delighting in the in-breath, I breathe in. Delighting in the in-breath, I breathe out. Or in the out-breath, I breathe out. It's just a gladdening the mind. And one can just be directing attention to the experience or the feeling, or one can also be lifting up a recollection, an image, a perception, a memory that has delightful connotations, so that there is a sense of well-being, gladdening the mind, and these are, this is allowable to feel good when you're practicing meditation in the Buddhist path. It's for some people, it's a real revelation, and so that the ways that we direct attention and in terms of these different categories, just playing with them, exploring them, drawing out some of the nuances. So it's like in the section on feeling, the experiencing the citta sankhara. It's like the mind the mental formations. Citta Sangha, formation is a good word. It's also the conditions of the mind. It also means conditioners, and that which conditions the mind. And what conditions the mind or forms the mind in terms of our experience, mental formation, the feeling of our mental experience, the fundamentals of a mental experience are feeling and perception. The feeling tone of something, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, just that basic tone, and associated. And these are every mental state has a feeling tone to it. Every mental state has this is a basic construct of the Buddha's conception of our mental world, and every mental state has a perception. So Vedana and Sanya, so that these formulate or form our mental experience, and perception is memory, recognition, association, what we associate with, and in terms of what memory, what image, what thoughts are stimulated by a particular experience. So that starts to build the mind. And then, of course, as soon as we experience that, then we start to condition it, or we get caught in the conditions, or we get caught in the formations, formulations. We start proliferate, we start thinking, and we start reacting with our emotions of liking, disliking, wanting, not wanting, approving, disapproving, and that's a tangle. That we have feeling and perception, that's fundamental to the mind. You can't. Something can be have a feeling tone. It can have a memory associated. Can have an image pop up in the mind, and it's that is natural. We don't need to build on it. So it's like this. That's why it's like the mind conditioners. So experiencing the mind conditioners and these mental formations, so that we can see clearly what kind of world are we building for ourselves. What kind of mental world? What kind of emotional world? And we are doing that. We will always experience feeling and perception, but we can experience it with mindfulness and clarity and non-reactivity if we just pay attention clearly, understand the nature of it. And so that in the practice of mindfulness of breathing, that developing, turning attention to the experience of the realm of feeling and perception as we're breathing in, as we're breathing out. What are the fundamentals of the mental, emotional world that we inhabit? And then, of course, the other step that the Buddha gives is calming. Calming the mind conditioners, calming the mental formations. I breathe in, calming the mental formations, the mind conditioners I breathe out. Just allowing them to settle, allowing not not kind of not poking the ant's nest. it's a that's never very satisfactory. It's always going to be problematic. It's always going to end up uncomfortable and painful. But just the being present with the sensation of the breath can be pleasant. It can be unpleasant sometimes, and sometimes it's difficult to. You might experience an uncomfortable, or it's just neutral, but it can be known, and it's important to be just present with that knowing, like one returning to the knowing. In the same way that with the associated with the different feelings and the memories or the perceptions or the associations that are stirred up, that can be known. And whatever can be known or whatever we experience arises and it ceases. And again, we can either watch it with, or be present for that with awareness and clarity, or we can get swept up in the content and get caught up in the story that gets going. And the reality is well that as human beings, we love our stories, and and what would we be without our stories? So so we carry them around, but in reality, we are contributing to them. We are participating in the story making of me and my life. And the freedom that the Buddha gives us is the freedom to be the knowing, to be the one who knows, because that's a place where resolution, peace, a kind of unshakability can be realized, can be experienced. So it's it's just being willing to return to the breath, and knowing the mind. I mean, there's these. The citta is a kind of a collective term for the mind. That on the level of feeling. Then it's that fundamental experience of feeling, perception, vedana, sanya. Knowing the mind is a kind of a collective term for the emotional realm, the content of the mind, and that's where when we it's like this Anapanasati Sutta, when the Buddha says practicing Anapanasati brings the four foundations of mindfulness to fruition. it's helpful to have a good sense of what the four foundations of mindfulness are and how the Buddha presents that. Because when especially around the aspect of mind, in the Anapanasati or in the Satipatthana, then we just have to know the the content of the mind. When one experiences a mind, the mind with greed, one knows that it's a mind with greed. When you experience a mind without greed, we know that it's a mind without greed. It's not getting caught up into the story of it, of, oh, woe is me, I'm such a hopeless meditator because I have greed. Or, I'm just really accomplished because I don't have any greed. That's creating a person out of it. That's creating an identity out of an experience. And again, it's creating a story. But the function of mindfulness is giving us the opportunity to step out of the story, step out of the habit of identifying, of identification, creating the I-making, mind-making, and that's say the word in Pali, ahankara, mamankara, is ahang is I, mamang is mine, and kara is to make, to do. So it's something that we do. Of course, we do pretty well. Make an I and a mine and a me, and everything is about me, and then, but of course, it's suffering. So it's to be able to recognize, step back from, and see the fundamental content, so that we don't have to buy into or invest in that making, that doing, that concocting that is so insidious, but it's very pervasive. So that knowing the mind of greed is the mind of greed. It's when it's known and recognized and where one is present for, it can cease. A mind of ill will. When it's known, it can arise and cease. It doesn't have to. We don't have to contribute any further to another story about either me or somebody, something, somebody else out there who I'm offended by, or I'm irritated by. It's just, there's irritation, and one can see it and let it go. It's that simple, and just to, and of course, we're actually great at doing complicated things, but not so good at doing simple things. So that taking an interest in the fundamentals of our human experience, so that we can start creating some space for the experience of clarity and peace. As it's and that's where mindfulness of breathing is such a important tool in the toolbox of that the Buddha has given us. So to be able to explore that and pay attention to, what are we creating, and what can we let go of? What can we relinquish? Of course, in reality, we can let go of everything, but it takes training, and that's exactly why we have a practice like mindfulness of breathing, because you can't just sort of okay, I'm going to relinquish all greed, hatred. I'm going to relinquish the world of samsara. I'm going to do that. It's a great project, but can you just, one breath at a time, create a bit of space, create a bit of mindfulness, create a bit of clarity and discernment, so that one isn't complicating things. Gladdening the mind, I breathe in. Gladdening the mind, I breathe out. Settling the mind, I breathe in. Settling the mind, I breathe out. Composing, settling. Again, the word is, which this normal translation is concentrating. But I always feel uncomfortable using that translation because there's so much tightness there, and sometimes there's not a whole lot of ease. But settling, composing, settling the mind, I breathe in. Settling the citta, I breathe out. Composing the citta. So bringing this composure to each in-breath and each out-breath is it's a gift that we're giving ourselves, really. It's like shifting the perception of what because we've got so much doing and being the doer and trying to do it right, and that can we just give ourselves the gift of a composed, settled in-breath and a composed, settled out-breath. These are, they're interesting ways to turn the practice on its head a bit and try to look at it from a different angle, so that we're experiencing a degree of clarity and well-being, because that's certainly what the Buddha is giving his teaching for, is to give us the opportunity to experience some clarity, some discernment, seeing things in their true nature. And of course we need to be somewhat still in order to see things clearly. And we're already motivated to be free of suffering, and we're already motivated to be free of difficulty and pain. So we want to support that as much as possible, and put our attention back onto bringing it back to the breath, bringing it back to the body, bringing it back to the feeling, the fundamental experience of the mind, of our mental formations, of the sense of natural phenomena that we experience on a moment-to-moment, day-to-day basis. So I will offer that for reflection